Welcome, welcome back to our art garden, art lovers. Today we are talking about trees and woods. What is the place that trees are taking, are having in our lives as human beings, high-spirited, creative creatures, art lovers, art painters? Let us see. Let's imagine that in the middle of the very hot August day in Massachusetts, like 5, 6 o'clock, it's really hot and humid. We are trying to cross the empty space like this at David Hockney's piece. What are we doing there? We are trying to cross a huge interstate road to get to the other side of it. We're taking the bridge over that because over there is somewhere our home and we are getting back from work. So we have to do it. It's really hard and hot and humid and everything, but we know, because it's not the first time that we do it, what we should expect over there when we reach the end of our torturous way. It may be the thing like at Alabama piece or the rain piece. It's the alley of the trees or Constable Haven or Suzanne or the one that you don't know. Um, it's a very realistically prolific Russian painter of 19th century, Pushkin. And Cezanne again, and let's see what else is there that we can expect. Oh yes, of course, Sargent, Terrain, Monet, and somewhat uh, sh- shades over the trees of Watteau piece. And this paradise painted by Watteau. And that one, and Hokusai, and Hackney again. And it is what we are expecting when we are dreaming, when we are thinking about the trees. Again, Shishkin, again, Monet, Van Gogh. And look what is there. Andrew Wave is dreaming what will happen with someone who needs some rest and the shade and the pleasure of being taken care of. The human being is clinging to the tree and sitting over there under the trees. And guess what is the title of that piece created by Winslow Homer? The title of this piece is The Old Friend. The human being is just the human being is just touching the tree, because that human being, that man, knows that when we are going to get to reach our difficult road, our destination, and to get some rest, and we touch the tree, and we will see and experience the rest and the tender shade and the fresh air, and we are embraced by the momentarily tranquility of the communication with the trees. So it is where we're going. And guess what is happening there? Not only us who know what's happening when we are communicating physically and possibly spiritually with the trees. These are pictures showing you so-called tree huggers. This is the movement which is currently is happening, and it started in 1730. The name tree huggers was coined by the Indian villagers who were protecting their forests. Does it sound familiar to you? And they paid their lives for that good course. But then it has become a little bit less bloody, but very much mm, spiritual, I would say. Look at these people. Look how many people want to communicate to touch the tree. And it is reflected, of course, by the fine art. Look at the Gauguin piece in Tahiti. Artists are very special because, they, even if they cannot formulate it verbally, they see, they feel, they understand the connection between that natural outburst that we call tree and us, human beings. Look at this person who becomes only one, embracing the tree, and that one, and that one. And those are hippies, by the way, who are clinging to the tree, and poor people, and that ultimate tree hugger. Look at him. Isn't he good? So, what is this tree about? What is this phenomenon about? Now, look at this photograph. This is the photograph of a huge ginkgo tree. And those who participated in our open art sessions, they worked with those fan-like trees of the ginkgo because we did collages with them. This one, by the way, is the most ancient tree. Some experts call it fossil tree, though it is quite alive, as you know. You can find it almost in any backyard. And this one is a huge poplar, the smaller poplars, maple, maple tree, pine trees, beauty and charms and good looks, and oak tree. Oak tree has a very special meaning, talking about symbolism of trees and the images of the trees. The symbol of wisdom and strength and might. And charming, charming cherry trees. See, this is a Japanese tree in bloom. Now, we are going to see the olive tree. The olive tree, this one is, I believe, like a couple of thousand of years old, somewhere from the Palestine, from Israel. It's called Tree of Life. Have you heard that? That one and that one are, this one is red oak, and these are the leaves of the oak tree. And now we are coming to a very beautiful tree, rowan. And rowan tree has been considered by ancient Celts as another tree of life. And it is quite beautiful, as you can see. The berries and the flowers, and the birds enjoy it as well. And the cottages love to be encircled by rowan tree. This one is another very interesting tree, acacia. And I was very surprised when I saw how they called it in those sources that I pulled it out. That acacia tree, old one, was called psychedelic acacia tree of life. All right, what is it about tree of life here? To learn what is it about tree of life here, we have to take the book, to open it over there where we have Genesis chapter 2, verse 9. And what we read here, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden. It is King James Version translation. And if you forgive me, I will try to pronounce the tree of life term in the original sound, Etz HaHaim. I know that my Hebrew is not perfect, but I just love to pay respect to the real name of that. Tree of life. So not just tree, but tree of life. And we go and see that people are thinking about tree as the symbol of life. And this one taken from some very old manuscript is showing not only tree of life, but also the tree of knowledge with Eve and Adam trying to get an apple from there. Some scholars make some connection between tree of life and tree of knowledge. It's not my expertise. I just love the image. And I love this image as well. I was so excited when I found it because it is called a meditational uh, piece of tree of life placed on the ground. Tree of life in the with the background of the real trees. I think it is quite amazing. Another image of tree of life, another one, and this is Kabbalistic tree of life. It is completely different point of view, but the structure, it's strikingly reminding me, at least the tree, like this one, and like this beautiful, beautiful paper cut. So the tree becomes the symbol of the existence of us, all of us. At the same time, it remains and becomes with the next step we take as art makers another beautiful piece of art, right? So let's go and see what's there. Inevitably, people who considered the visual image of tree as the tree of life, as the symbol of life, of metaphor of life, they created menorahs. Menorahs who are presenting the spirit, the light, the being, the goodness, the existence. Those are sitting in Jerusalem. This is the chandelier, the menorah from one of the temples over there. This is so-called golden menorah. Now let's get to art making. And when I thought about that step, I was trying to figure out who would be the best possible connector and divider from the observation, semi-scientifical, semi-theological, and semi-human-like. And of course, I came to the idea that Marc Chagall would be the best, of course. And I found that piece which has both the image of a tree and the image of menorah. Look at all his images that I pulled and collected for you today. These are presenting the love song and at the same time, the shape of the tree and the shape of the menorah, and people are there, and all animals which are presenting by the terminology of Marc Chagall, all good things, and love, and home, and peace, and everything. So let's look at Chagall a little bit more. See how many images of the trees of different kind. That splendid artist, this outstanding creative mind and soul, have chosen to use in his pictures, to implement as the embodiment of his imagination, of his love to life, of his love to his beloved Bella and daughter and uh, uh, all the people whom he loved in his life. And he had a very long life. He lived, I don't know, possibly to mid of 90s, and he kept creating his beautiful pieces, I believe, until the very last moment of his life. So it is a perfect connector for us between the observation, and the excitement of art making. Let's go for it. This one, by the way, is presenting the image of the acacia, but this piece is created 1900 years BC. So the piece is more than 4,000 years old. Guess what is the title of it? Enchanted Acacia with Songbirds. It is how old Egyptians formulating their connection with the tree. And now I want to show you some pieces where the images of the tree are taking mm, a very prominent part in this presentation, but they are serving their secondary role because here they are not main characters, but they are creating that background of the piece. These are medieval manuscripts and Persian and Indian miniatures, illustrations of their manuscripts as well. Let us see what is another set of trees of a different kind, many colors, many stories, and everywhere the trees are serving that, playing that role of not only a background, but the environment where the story that which is unfolding in this piece or in this book, in this manuscript, can only be told. This is the piece of folk art. You see, the characters are animals, and the tree is their set design for their stage, for the story. It is what trees are doing in all many of those pieces, their set design. Let's see what else we can see about it. Another piece of folk art. This is kind of a May Day. See, people are dancing around the May tree, as you can see here, right? And now we are going to see all these beautiful trees as part of the very famous tapestry, unicorn tapestry, French, uh, I don't know, art, craft. Let's see that it is combination of art and craft because good art cannot exist because without excellent craft, as we all know too well. So these tapestries are done in France in 15, beginning of 16th century, and since then, people keep enjoying them. One of my friends and relatives, in all the difficulties she is experiencing, she knows that if she goes over there to the cloister and see the unicorn tapestry with all these beautiful trees in it and unicorn and the lady, all of them are there, it becomes much better. You see what trees can do, especially when they are combined with other good features. Let's see what else over there. Yeah, uh, in Middle Ages, in and the beginning of the very early Renaissance, like in this Giotto piece, the trees are used in many settings of different cultures. Again, as the backdrop of the environmental necessity for the unfolding the story that the piece is telling. This is Saint Francis is talking to birds. And if they are birds, of course there should be a tree because birds are nesting there. So the tree is here. This is Russian icon, beautiful as is. The tree is there in the very middle. Another one, let me show it to you. Yeah, the tree is also here. Not only the Trinity as Trinity, quite beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful art is, forgive me for that silly sound, Beautiful art is really beautiful, isn't it? But the trees here as well, right? This is a later piece, but the trees here. And very interesting thing I want to show you. This is one of Raphael's pieces. Look at this tiny thing over there. Trees here, but only the far away, not even the background, but just the mention of the existence of the background. Let's see what else happening with the tree. Yes, this is another not divider. If you remember on our title piece, we used that uh, image, which is the fragment of the most beautiful piece in the history of art. Oh, there are many most beautiful pieces, of course, in the history of fine art, but this one is really very, very, mm, very much loved, very much loved because of the beauty, because of the meaning, because of metaphorical and pictorial strength of Primavera by Botticelli. You will understand, hopefully with my help, why I've chosen that image part of the bigger piece uh, to be put on the title page of our uh, course, of our travel, of our journey through trees and woods. Let's go and see what else can be found there. Bruegels, Bruegel the elder, Bruegel the younger. You know, sometimes it is even difficult to understand who is who because youngsters of that family sometimes were copying the pieces of the father, and their sons would do the same, but still they are recognizable and they are using the trees in their pictures because the trees, the images of the trees become a very important feature in what they are doing. People are hunting between the trees, people are dancing around the trees, people are resting under the tree. What else? They keep they keep including the images of the trees in summer, or maybe it is fall, in winter, a bigger composition, smaller compositions, the tree over there, the forest over here. Those are dancers dancing around the tree. Remember the folk piece where people were dancing around the May tree? Again, the cultures um, implement different cultures um, implementing in visual arts of of those uh, of the people who are carrying those cultures uh, similar images, and the image of the tree is possibly the most popular in all the cultures in the world. See, we checked uh, Orient, we checked West culture, we checked Middle Europe. Let's see what else we can see over there. And we are coming to the end of the medieval culture because we are looking at the art of Albrecht Dürer. I put here his self-portrait, though he's not a tree, of course, but I just wanted you to recognize who was doing what here. These are two watercolors that Dürer himself painted, and this is the drawing that he himself created. We will meet with Dürer's art later uh, within our presentation, and you will appreciate recalling what you have seen here, just remember this face. This is the face of a very young man. He is about 20ish when he created this self-portrait. He would be the one to change the world of visual art. And what is happening here now? The trees starting actually from those pieces, and we are moving to the other great name in visual art, John Constable. The place of the tree, the importance of the tree and trees and woods in visual art and in the minds of humankind, it develops to the importance of the level that this imagery becomes self-important. Trees do not need anymore to be just an environment. They become the heroes, the heroes of the story. Quite beautiful, isn't it? Another constable. And I was just taken by the freedom of this sketch created by the same prolific constable. See, I just couldn't resist to include those two drawings in the presentation of our paintings, and you will see what else comes up, to the tree collection, to the collection of the tree images of the art of the trees. And that one, it is kind of etude. And now we come to see the only piece created by great divine Turner that has the trees in it. See? Because he was known mainly because of his waters. But look at these trees. Pay attention at it. Because this piece, as well as those three pieces that I pulled out from number of pieces created by Daubigny, who is considered as well as Turner as precursors of Impressionism. And Barbizon's school, Daubigny was one of the brightest names of this school. Daubigny and Turner are considered as those who gave not birth, but maybe some push, some idea to Impressionism. All right, let's go. Here we are making one step, couple of steps to the other end of the world, because I want us to enjoy how Chinese culture, old Chinese culture mainly, depicted the trees and created the beauty of it, knowing that every single brush stroke in this culture is predetermined and learned and strictly followed. The instructions, the teachings in this culture of depicting visual imagery as well as calligraphy is very, very strong and powerful. And look what a result it brings to us. In certain time, in the end of 19th, beginning of 20th century, Chinese and Japanese culture influenced very strongly and very heavily Art Deco and modern art and Secession, all the imagery that was used there have had or had connections with the visual imagery that they could depict in Chinese and Japanese art. And talking about Japanese art, of course, Hokusai, who would be able to present you anything from this part of the world uh, having in mind visual treasures without Hokusai name. Just let's take a look at it. You don't need me to complement the joy of seeing it with my comments. I would just say, oh, wow, beautiful, inspiring, truly. All right, we are coming to another genius who, at least in this collection, in this presentation, will divide the previous part and the part that will follow. Rembrandt. Again, I did the same thing that I did with Albrecht Dürer. I picked up one of many of his self-portraits. He's young here, but not very young. Not that young, enthusiastic boy that you used to see in his early paintings and etchings when he was with his beloved Saskia. Here probably, or maybe she's still with him because he's concentrated. See, he's looking at you, but I think that he's looking at the piece that he's creating. And he's not unhappy. He's just very deeply into what he's making. And when you think about etchings by Rembrandt, what comes to your mind? I bet some of you will recall this piece. Three trees. Three trees. Something about the whole universe is there, don't you think? That's why this face is so concentrated, because this person is putting into his art his understanding, his perception of the whole world. And this is what he is using to visually explain himself to us, to send us the message. Take the message. There are a few more trees for you. I've collected number of the etchings of that kind that Rembrandt has created, and few drawings. This is the drawing, because you have to see that not only the needle of the person who does the etching, but also the pencil and the hand and the eye should serve him or her well, and it did. So Rembrandt. What happens after Rembrandt in visual art? In our case, in visual art, in depiction of trees, not only depiction, metaphorical, visual metaphor creation, I would say. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Remember one of the first pages of our presentation where I pointed out at the Winslow Homer piece where man was touching the trunk of the tree, and the title of that piece was Old Friend, the connection with the trees, people and the trees, people and the trees, not only just background, but some entity in it. This is one of my personally very much loved piece. When I was a young student, I even had that piece on my wall for some time. Of course, Rubens and his first beloved wife, Isabella Brandt. Guess what is the title of that piece if you don't remember that? The piece is called Honeysuckle Bower, because artists decided to depict their double self-portrait, their double portrait, self-portrait and the portrait, having the tree of honeysuckle included in the picture, because the meaning of that tree, the meaning so well fitting to the beginning of their happy marriage filled with love and mutual adoration. Enjoy the piece and thank the opportunity to see it again. All right, this is the piece of Renoir, where lady is enjoying herself in the midst of the garden. Another piece created by our own American Mary Cassatt, who was one of the Impressionists. She spent some time in Paris. She was studying there, she was exhibiting there, she was a friend with Impressionists and was part of their movement. And then she came back home to America, still being Impressionist, as you can see. And that portrait of Lydia is taken very nicely with the aura of the garden filled with trees and the air of it in this picture. And now another picture. I just wanted to have it here. It's a Japanese print of 19th century, a relatively young piece. But this is a cherry tree, and the piece is called Woman Under the Cherry Tree. You see? There are features of more contemporary art or more contemporary depiction with full respect and deep following of the rules of Japanese visual art, as exactly as we mentioned before. And of course, we all know that beautiful piece by Claude Monet, Lady in the Garden. Lady in the Garden. Who is the main character of this picture? What would you say? That lady or this tree? Where is my? Uh-huh. The tree is the focal point of the picture. The lady attracts attention, but she's moving to the focal point of the picture, to the tree. And of course, Paul Gauguin's pictures of Tahiti life. Of course, everything is related, connected, surrounded, um, based on the life of trees and people tending the trees, taking their food from the trees, resting under the tree, and and their animals as well, and standing at the tree. Remember tree huggers? Those people in old Tahiti, they felt that the touch of the tree make them feel good. So they did touch the tree with all their body, all their body. And again, our own American Child Has Some. Again, one as the very well-known pieces with the trees, with the garden, Concord Garden, I think, uh, over there, as again, as a very important part of the composition, presenting the life of Boston. And for Bostonians, trees are so important, aren't they? What do you think as Bostonians? All right, now we are going to a little bit more contemporary. Well, Matisse is another divider, another connector between those times of 19th century and these times of 20th century end. So one of the Matisse pieces, another kind of unexpected Matisse pieces, when I believe he was depicting when he was traveling in the places with palm trees. Palm trees. We have not seen much of palm trees before, but we will, I promise. And just for fun of it, I've decided that in the presentation, including pieces explaining, showing, visualizing the art connection, artsy connection that artists who painted those pieces between character, human being, and character, tree, was presented clearly. This one, we are seeing Matisse's famous goldfish and the trees. I don't know what, nobody knows what genius is thinking, but I'm curious to see and to understand, I would say, what he was thinking when he was putting his fishes together with the trees outside of the window. The connection, I guess, that is such a perfect piece for you. This piece is created by John Singer Sargent, depicting the moment when another artist, Claude Monet, was enjoying himself on painting plein air, and he was painting the trees. Isn't it fitting perfectly well to our presentation, to the ideology of our presentation? Two excellent artists, both painting the trees and each other. What can be better? We'll see what. Cézanne. Paul Cézanne applying his thorough approach in presenting material world filling with, filled with his um, deep thought and even deeper perception of matter of things. And the trees were one of his favorite subject matter, not only still lives, but trees. And you can see why, you understand it perfectly well. All his brushstrokes that he was known by thoroughly considered where, how, when, and what of to put the brushstroke on the canvas or on the paper if it was a paper. So 4 pieces of the trees, except those that I've shown you prior to in the very beginning of presentation. And here comes Monet with all these blooming trees and olive trees and vibrating air and the beauty of life. And the beauty of life is presented by the imagery of the trees. Monet, Claude Monet, has so many of it, and we are fortunate that we can enjoy them today and forever. More Monet, this time the palm tree. And this one is so famous with poplar trees. And another number of pieces of poplar trees. See? He keeps coming back almost to the same position to present that beauty. Beauty and charms and good looks and symbol of life and light and balanced world, balanced perception, balanced outcome of the consideration of the artist presented in the form of visual art. One more piece, now just the big trunk of the tree with all the features of his paintings being seen here so well. And can you believe that this is Matisse? And this is another Matisse. And these are all olive trees. Remember, I showed you the olive tree, the old olive tree from Galilee that was called Tree of Life. So probably it is something right in that um, name, because painters, good painters, like Matisse, for example, and others, as you can see, they used images of olive trees very frequently. Let us think why. We may not know the answer, but we definitely can enjoy looking at them. This is just the fruit tree. And here comes Van Gogh. This is his perception, this is his presentation of poplar tree. And of course, another olive tree presentation. And another one. And have you noticed that famous starry night has the tree right in the first plane of it? Like the whole night is um, um, pierced by the image of that tree. Or maybe there is just a connection, not piercing, just the connection. Let's think that way. Because now we are coming to see another very prominent painter, now French painter, who was the one who started the Fauvism movement, one of the Fauves, one of the wild ones, the rain. This is how he started. This is how he was painting. And this is how he painted later. It's not the difference is striking. What is striking here? How their artistic thought, that special artistic thought, is getting developed. You see all the painterly treasures in this painting, as much included here as you can find it there. Here they open and they're shouting, "We're here, we're here." And here they are a little bit not hidden, but talking a little bit different story. And the story is also about art and about life and about strange life. This is another piece that I cherished in my young years. Very formative image to my mind. And somehow I feel that the rain is connected with Dali. I took this most recognizable Dali piece, Persistence of Time, just formally from one side because it has the tree. It is kind of a this tree, you know. It is that tree. It is that tree. But it is a tree. But I just see the relationship because between formation of mind. I think that they knew each other in the first decades in Paris because both were there and they hung out in one circles. Do we see the influence of that onto that? Very possibly. I do see it. I do find it. And I wanted to share with you that thought. Uh-huh. Here we have all these fantasy world. It is what tree is providing to us, the world of fantasy. This is the story that should be mentioned at least. Of course, we all know that all these beautiful, fantastical so-called naive art. I do not appreciate the term primitive because it's not primitive at all. It was valued, cherished, and shown by the giants like Picasso and others. And this set of artwork is created by Henri Rousseau, who was, mm, let me find the right, Donia. Yeah, you will forgive my bad French pronunciation because he was known not only as Henri Rousseau, the person who creates beautiful uh, art, not like any other in these times, because it was time of the post-impressionism. It was time by the rise of um, Picasso and everything, and Henri Rousseau serving as custom officer, that's why he was called Tonier, kept creating his fantastic pieces. When artists in Paris in those times, he was French, of course, we know, we know. Um, when artists of his time noticed, paid attention at what he was doing, he invited him to show his art in their art salons, and he did. And when, unfortunately, it happens, he passed away, they took care of his heritage, of his art, and preserved it and kept showing it. And it is known that possibly he didn't want to obtain the academical training. He was a very sophisticated person, musician. He played musical instruments and gave lessons, teaching piano lessons. And he kept painting his wonderful pieces. At the same time, serving as custom officer. Trees and the Aphrodite, or the fairy of the forest, or the magician that has hold on all the flowers and the trees and the animals and the creatures of this place. Very possible. I read that when Henri Rousseau Donier resigned from customs, he stopped painting. And I didn't find explanation to that. Just wanted to tell you about it. And again, enjoy the profound beauty of it. It is not just the so-called naive art. It is just other art. And art is art is art. You know that, right? You've heard it from me, at least, because I love to repeat it. It is art, and it is very good art. Enjoy it. And we'll go further. Yes, I do see the visual similarities, as funny as it may sound, between the art that we have just experienced and the art that we are going to experience now. The feeling, the substantial, the perception of the substance of visual matter that artist proffers to you through his or her art. In our case, in this drawing created by Nikolai Cherny, and those other pieces created by George O'Keeffe, you will see that it is what they want to give us. They want to give us the feeling of the mighty creative force that creates so many things, trees included. I'll give you a quiet moment. It is very strong, that this drawing and that painting. They are very strong. You cannot just swallow it. You have to allow it into your system to appreciate it and to enjoy it. And the definition, which I do not appreciate much because it doesn't have much meaning to me, it's different. Of course, everything is different. Every single piece of art is different from the other piece of art. That's the thing. That's the reason that pushes us to create it and pushes us to look at it and to enjoy it and triggers the whole thing in visual art. Of course it is different. It has to be. Let's go for Georgia a little bit more. There is something in this woman, in this artist. You balance on the border between oh, wow, and being scared. But you never step over it because this artist keeps you in her embrace and shows you how to enjoy the might and the force and the creative strength. This little woman, she also lived long life. People believe that the more creative the person, the longer that person lives, if other circumstances allow. For our benefit, for our benefit. Now we are going to see something, again, completely different. David Hockney. I pulled that piece not only because there are a lot of trees, a lot of woods and forests over there, but because it is that pool. Not exactly the picture that made David Hockney so well recognizable with the piece presenting the young man rising from the pool. Well, it shows the moment before that, but it allows you to make the connection. So that is the piece, and the trees are there. And then more trees by Hackney, and another tree, and perspective, and another piece. This is almost formula, almost visual formula that artist is making. The trees are there, the grounds are there, the logs are there, and the artist is painting it. See? That is him. More alley. You see how much artists, this one is definitely, appreciate the perspective. Though the plane of the picture of by David Hockney is not much structured in a perspective, but it has that play with the space and with run into it. See? And look at these pieces that we have watched some from the series of that, with the logs laying up on the road. And another version of that, you understand right away why these pieces are created from only the same position and the same perspective. They have different moods. They have different songs. Can you hear how that one is singing and how much different is the song sounding from that piece? Of course, they should be created. They should be created differently from each other. And you understand why I put them on one display. Another piece of alchemy is this one. It's less decorative, more um, realistic, if realistic is applied to that artist. However, it is a beautiful piece and I wanted you to enjoy it. Let's see what else we have in our collection. Yeah. Now we are going to America, to the United States. This is one of the very special and very interesting, and to my mind, is undervalued. He's undervalued. Edward Hopper, with all these common sayings about the images of alienation and loneliness and all this sadness and everything. First, that one is not about loneliness, but it is rather about the hugeness that we can perceive, that we are able to absorb when we are looking with open eyes and open minds onto the world between us. And I paid attention and I wanted to invite you to pay attention at it. In all these pieces lined up here, people and houses, people sticking out from the houses, looking out from the houses, sitting at the houses. And this is a gas station, probably looking out from it. They are longing to the woods. They are longing to be there because the visual conversation between this lady and that tree is obvious to me. And this poor man sitting lonely at the wall of his house. Even that pole that is shown here by the really good artist Edward Hopper underscore the longiness, how he longs to be connected, and this is his connection, which is not happening. Connection with the tree, which is not happening. Only one step, and she's there. She doesn't do it. Another piece. This is one very, very telling piece. The whole building with the windows sending the light out, and the forest, the woods are lit from the light from the sky. I think this is about the connection, though it is not performed by the dwellers of that house and not performed by the dwellers of that forest, but visually, artist makes that connection. That's why, to my mind, and I wanted to finalize the presentation of Edward Hopper's pieces by that piece. This is the door opened, and where is the door open, and where is the invitation bringing us to the trees, to the woods. All right, and here we go. Here we go. More trees by Jacob Higginbottom, who gave you the presentation of his art at one of our art salons. I took one of his pieces for this presentation. Nikolai Cherny, another Nikolai Cherny, who will, I hope, present his art to you this way or another. And the great Andrew Waith with his emotional and deeply generalized relationship with the nature, with emotional visual tension and that runs as undercurrent in all his paintings, and these two included. By the way, this is the person clinging to the trunk of the tree. See, I am persistent here, and you will see where we come to. Another piece by Andrew Waith, one of his Helga's, so-called Helga's pieces. Helga is here, leaning against the tree, and I think tree is hugging her. Remember, tree huggers? Here we have something else. Tree is hugging Helga, and Helga is looking somewhere into the space, and I wanted her to look at this piece created long before she was created by Andrew Waith, because this is the piece by Winslow Homer. Poplars on the edge of the water, and guess what is here on the water? The boat. We are going to take the trip to the other part, to the other point of view, to the other possibility, to the other part of our journey with trees and woods concept. And I will see you next time. Thank you very much.